Hey there, it's Dave of Flipperforce. I'm excited to announce that we just launched new importing functionality for our expense tracker. So previously you had to add all of your expenses manually, so you just had to go up here, add an expense, and then manually input all of your expenses. Now we've got a new bulk upload import functionality that you can use to quickly upload a bunch of expenses that you've got saved in a spreadsheet. So if you've got expenses that are in your credit card statement or maybe your bank account, you can export those to a CSV spreadsheet. Maybe you're using QuickBooks or something like that to track all of your expenses or some kind of other accounting software, and you want to bulk import those expenses into Flipperforce into the expense tracker. You can do that now using a CSV or a spreadsheet file. So we've got this built into a step-by-step process here. The very first step is to upload your file. Now first you need to make sure that your file is formatted properly before you actually upload the file. So you can see, how should my file be formatted here? Basically the way that we want you to import it is you'll have a date column, a description column, the amount column, the tax amount, and the invoice number. And so we've got some different formats here you can use for the date. You can see the formats that you can use. You can use the backslash, you can use the dashes, stuff like that. Description, it's pretty much just text. And then you've got some different formats here for the amounts and the tax amounts and the invoice number. So those are the formats that you need to use to get that imported. You do need to do it in the correct order as well. So you need to have it in, the date column needs to be in column A, description column B, the amount needs to be in column C, tax in column D, and invoice number column E. So most of those are going to be required too. The tax one and the invoice number, those ones are not required, but basically you'll need to include the date, the description, and the amount at the very least. Now you'll notice we do not support importing the accounts, companies, or categories at this time. So this is going to be our very first iteration of this tool, and hopefully in the near future we'll be able to add in some additional functionality here. So if you do want to bulk import all of your account names, bulk import companies or categories, stuff like that, we'll provide that functionality in the future. But basically this is kind of the basic version that we just wanted to get launched out there for you, so that way you can get this stuff in here. And then later down the road we'll add in accounts, companies, and categories, but it just gets a little tricky because you have to map all of those accounts, companies, and categories to the accounts, companies, and categories that you've actually got in your Flipperforce account. So that's why it gets a little bit more complicated when you want to import those. So anyways, once you get your file formatted properly, you'll be able to import the file. So I've got a spreadsheet here which has my expenses. You can see we've got the date column, everything's formatted properly. We've got the description, the unit cost, the tax amount, and invoice. You can see I don't have anything filled in on these. That's perfectly fine. So basically all we need is these three columns here with the date, description, and unit cost, which is basically the amounts there. And so that's the file that I'm going to import here. So I'm just going to select it. And now that I've got it selected, it says 27 of our 27 expenses are formatted correctly and ready for import. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to screw some stuff up, and I'm going to go back and then I'm going to re-upload it and show you what's going to happen if we don't have some of this stuff correctly. So I guess, for example, if we had the date format in a format that's not supported, so we've got that. Let's just say we bought doorknobs and we spent 250 bucks. So if I resave this and I go back and import this, I'll show you what happens when we have an error message here. So let's reselect this file. And so you can see 27 of 28 expenses are formatted correctly and ready for importing. So it says, warning, we found one error, and that was in row 29. It says the date must use a format like those formats there with the dashes or the backslashes. So you can see if we want that row, number 29, to import, we need to go back and fix that date format. So basically what we need to do is fix that date there, and once we fix it into a format that our system here can actually read, then that would fix that issue, and now those issues will be fixed once we re-upload this. But if we go ahead and we just say, okay, let's move ahead, I don't care if this one doesn't work or whatever, then basically only 27 of those 28 expenses are actually going to be imported. And so now you can see the next step is a preview. So this is just going to show you a preview of everything that's going to be imported, so that way you can give it a quick overlook to see everything that's going to be imported. Make sure that the dates, the descriptions, the amounts, everything's are in the right column, everything like that, all the values look correct, everything like that. Then you'll move on to the final step. So this is just a confirmation saying, do you actually want to import these expenses into the project 11 Elm Street? So it's always a good idea to confirm that you're actually uploading these project expenses into the correct project. So if you've got other expenses that are associated with a different project, you need to isolate those into a separate spreadsheet and then bulk upload those into the correct project, because all of these expenses are for this particular Elm Street project. So once you confirm that, you've done the error checking, you've reviewed to make sure that there aren't any errors, you've reviewed the preview to confirm that everything looks correct, and then once you've finally confirmed that it's actually importing those expenses into the correct project, you can click Finish Import here, and now it's going to import it into the expense tracker here. So you can see we quickly bulk imported 27 of those 28 expenses into the expense tracker here. We added this little icon here, so basically what this is going to tell you is anything that has this little info icon next to it, that means that that expense was bulk imported using our bulk import functionality. Otherwise, if you've done it manually, it will not have that I next to it, it'll just be blank there. So once you do that, now you'll have to go through and manually select the categories that these expenses go to. So again, in the future, hopefully we'll have a data mapping feature that will automatically do this for you, so that way this process will be a little bit easier. But you can see we just need to go through and select these blank columns for the accounts, the companies, the categories, the class, stuff like that. So for tiling, we'll just go down to tiling here, select tiling. This is material. Maybe we bought it from Home Depot, and then we bought it with our credit card account. So basically what we'll need to do is we'll just need to go through all of these 27 rows, make sure that all of those accounts, companies, and categories and classes are selected, which will help us just organize all of that data. And then based upon those category selections and stuff like that, we do have some different reports that help you organize that data. So if you want to see how much you spent on a particular category, or want to see how much you paid to a particular company or vendor, that's where those columns come in. Those help you organize and summarize all of your data on the project. The main one will be the category though, because the category column is used to compare your actuals against your budget. So as we select this, if we go through and we select hardwood flooring here, as we do that, those values should feed over to the project budgeter in the actual column. So the to date column here, so you can see we've spent $567 to date, and that'll be compared to our budget. So we don't have that set up, but that's why it's important to categorize everything, because then it'll feed over here to your project budgeter and you'll be able to compare those values to your actual. So that's how that bulk import functionality works. Hopefully that provides a much easier way for you to bulk import a whole bunch of expenses into the expense tracker, so that way you don't have to manually enter all those expenses individually all at each time. So if you have any questions, suggestions, or any kind of issues that you run into while you're using our new bulk import functionality, just reach out and let us know.